Alright. Alright. John, you good? John, I'm about to get started. So
Alright, y'all.
hey, what up? I'm here to talk about how to get the bag, or the use and introduction to Windows shell bags. So, first things first, just to begin, a little bit of today's meme. So, people are always giving OffSec talks. No, this time we're talking DefSec. So, who am I? So, my name is Evan Mikulski. I'm a third-year CSEC major. I'm into Windows and networking. I'm an enjoyer of automobiles and fan of anything OffSec and DefSec. And self-plug to my GitHub. Check me out. I do some kind of cool stuff. And let's get started on exploring the bags. But first off, what are shell bags? So this is all about user interaction with the file structure. So it's all about directory information. So what files get accessed on a Windows system, when their last interaction time is. It's all about just, we're doing after-the-math forensics, so this is after an incident has taken place, and we need to understand what the user has done on their system. What was the most recent files they've went to? What have they used any external media? So that's what this is all focused about. Now, just for note, this only does directory information. This doesn't deal with actual files. So this won't tell you about accessing like a text file or a Word file. It will only tell you about the directory it's stored in. And what's cool about shell bags is that it not only maps the directories, but you can also see the preferences. So like, oh, does the user have are they in a detailed view, or is it like large icons? That all gets stored within these bags. And this is mapped on a per user basis. So any user that's logged into the system, you'll be able to map out all this information. So let's get into it. So all the data that's stored in the shell bags, access times, write times, creation times, names, this is all stored and accessible from within this. It's called a bag, but it is in essence a registry hive. So once I get into where locating it, you'll understand better than me just speaking it. So where do you find this data? So there are two files of importance, userclass.dat and ntuser.dat. These two files are located on disk within the user's directory for your specific user. So as you'll see when I get to the demo, I'll show you the location and show you how do you go about reading these files. So then once you parse through the bags, whether with regedit or a couple of tools I'll show you, you'll then just go down to these particular registry keys from within each specific .dat file, and you'll be able to get an idea of the user structure. Now, from what I found, the userclass.dat file contains the most information used in this type of forensics work. So, why did that just, what? Okay, here we go. So, I don't know why my slides just went out of order, but I'll go back to that slide at the end. So now we need to understand the structure of these bags. So the folder of importance is bag MRU. Now you'll find that there are two folders when I pull up the demo. There's bag MRU and then there's bags. So bag MRU is the one of importance because it's the structure of every directory that the user in question has accessed. So you see a bunch of numbers here. That number, each number represents a folder. So it's not named because the name is actually stored within the key as a value in hex itself. So but it's a hierarchical view of used directories. So when you're reading through these registry folders, the important key value pairs to pay attention to are number and MRU list EX. Those two are important because what they describe is the directory name and the order of access to subdirectories. So any child directory access, it will return to you in the form of this value every directory access. So you'll see 00, 03, 19. That means that the folder 00 was the most recently accessed folder, and then it just carries on down this line. So when do these shellbag records get created? Folder creation, zip creation, search queries, so searching in Windows Explorer or the Start menu search, anytime you interact with directories on removable devices, and remote folders and machines. So I'll show that off too once I get to the demo, but I saw that when I was taking sysadmin 1, I could see me connecting to the user folder share on RIT's network. So that gets recorded as well. Now, when do these records get modified? When are they updated? Well, they get updated when preferences are changed. So like your view preferences, so like switching to list view, switching to large icon, or a display of hidden directories. So all those preferences are stored not within bag MRU, but they're stored within bags, which has an association to items in bag MRU. Or if you access the directory and start working with files in it, that updates these bag values as well. So let's talk tools. So the easiest way, even though it's personally the most complex way, is regedit. Because these are all just registry hives. So you can just go into regedit and read these bag MRU values for yourself. Granted, it's complex and it's a bit weirdly formatted because of the way Windows handles it. Thank you, Windows. Or you can use this guy by the name of Eric Zimmerman. He put together a bunch of cool tools. So Registry Explorer for just general exploration of registry. And he wrote a tool called Shellbag Explorer dedicated to reading these shellbags. So it's demo time. Let's actually go through and use my system as a demonstration. Oh, and my apologies. All right, so we're on my system now. So first things first is what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull up a quick little. I've come to terms with this. So first off, because we understand that these are registry keys, we can actually watch for this happening with process monitor. Yeah. So right now it's just loading. So what I'm going to do just for testing purposes is I'm going to create a new folder on my desktop. And I'm going to call it something extremely identifiable. So let's go folder. Let's just call it. Oh, and we're starting to see it. We're starting to see updates to the registry come in. So call it new folder, but I'm also going to rename it from new folder to, not the baby. I'm going to call it RITSEC demo. Whoa. Done. So now, again, more updates. We're seeing that it's creating new shellbags and it's proceeding to update these registry keys. So let's open up regedit and just show what the actual foundation is before we can start talking about the tools. Well, the one tool that makes it easier to deal with. So here we see the structure that we defined when talking about where these bags are stored within registry. So Microsoft Windows shell, bag MRU, and bags. So referring back to what was on my slides, bags are all the preference information, while bag MRU, that's the actual directory information. So let's crack this open, and we can already start to see. So for some odd reason, don't ask me why, I don't even know, but the way it's laid out is desktop is determined to be the root, and then you can go into my computer into C drive. I don't understand why the root devices, so all the individual hard disks are not the root, but that's just the way it's set up, so that's the way it's got to be dealt with. So now we can start exploring, and we can see here there are about 19 registry keys that are all pertaining to valid directories. So let's start exploring, and I actually want to pull up, let's see here. Yes, I'm leaking my own registry keys. So let's go to, I think 19 was the one I wanted to demo. So this is another one I can demo. So editing the binary values, we can actually see that there's a folder called test-tac2. Now, what is that? So thinking about where we are currently in the Shellbag Hive, we can kind of get an idea of where this will be located just from the registry. So if we go back to my desktop, what's this right here? It's a folder called test-tac2. And we are at the root of bag-mru, which means the desktop, so here it is. So then let's start looking into what else we can discover about this test-tac2 directory. So diving in, we just see, oh, MRU list EX. So there's only one folder, which is 0, and there's no child registry folders here, so we can already get an idea that there's one subdirectory, but there's nothing else after that. So let's open up test2. Come on. There it is. Okay, so in test-tac2, we see new folder and asdf.txt. So this goes back to my point when I was introducing shellbags, is it doesn't talk about files. That's the one thing that shellbags doesn't do, is it talks about files. So that's, while a downside, it's not that big of a deal, but now we can go back here and we can see node slot. That's the preferences. I'll highlight that in just a second, but MRU list EX. We can see that it's 0, 0, 0, 0, all zeros and then Fs. So what this tells me is, oh, the only folder that's really been accessed from within the context of its parent directory, test-tac2, means that that's the most recently accessed folder, and also because it's the only one, from a forensic standpoint, it's like, oh, this folder was also accessed to either store or retrieve data. So I can also go modify, and we can see now we got the name of the subdirectory. So that's really cool, but let's go back and start talking, even though it's not as extremely important from an investigation point of view, but we can also determine preferences. So we can see like how the user had their Explorer windows set up. So this node slot, that actually references to the bags key, the bags registry folder. So this number 185, it correlates to, if we go bags, we can find in this list, I just passed it, 185, shell. And now from here, we can get a lot of information about how the user had it set up. I don't have the table on hand that describes what all these D-word values correlate to, but with that table, you can take like icon size, group view. Yeah, that's the only one, because I didn't modify any of the preferences. This is just the default for Windows, but we can see how the user had this directory set up, and this can tell us like how the user was presenting data from looking at these files back to themselves. So yes, this is easy enough to do, but it's very tedious to do because all we're seeing are binary, we're seeing integer, and we're seeing hex output. So there's got to be a simpler way to do this, and I touched on it earlier. There is. So if we go to Shellbags Explorer, Shellbags Explorer, just got to run it as admin because.
Is this a default tool?
What do you mean a default tool? No, this is Eric Zimmerman's Shellbags Explorer. This is not pre-installed on Windows. Apologies for not making that clarification earlier.
No, that's my fault. You typed in shit. You couldn't have installed that.
Yeah, no, I'm just waiting for it to launch.
It's taking forever to show up. Maybe it's just so hefty because it's forensically.
Okay, John.
No, it does in general. Zoom,
John.
Chrome, everything. This is why
Yep.
I switch over to Mac.
And is it?
Because I don't have to wait this freaking. Have you ever tried running Windows Mac?
Yeah, I'm still running Procmon. Oh, here it goes. So I should also just close out of Procmon. That would be a good idea.
Just because Zoom has memory leaks, it's just taking up all your memory.
Yeah, that. That could be valid. So now we have Shellbags Explorer open, and already this looks kind of pretty. But let's start reading live from the registry. So we're gonna load the active registry. Give it a couple seconds because now it's parsing through and delivering in a pretty format Shellbags. So done. Took about 5 seconds. Perfect. So now.
Windows slow now. That was only 5 seconds.
So now let's. Sheesh. Well, let's start investigating. So, going back to where test 2, here it is. But now we can see in a prettier format information, the same information that we were just reading from the registry, but instead in a prettier, more readable format. So now, test 2, we can see the absolute path, which is desktop / test 2. We can see where it exists within the registry. So remember from, if I still have it open, which I do not, we were looking at, under bag MRU, we were looking at folder 19. That's presented right back to us. We can see our target timestamp, so we can see when this directory was created, when it was last modified, when it was created, modified, and when it was last accessed. So again, very important information from a forensic standpoint, because if you have someone exfilling data, you can see the last time that it was read. But not only are folders a cool thing, we have removable media. So in the time that I was going through this is backslash was actually a flash drive that I was using back at home to prepare my laptop for this year. So the folder laptop 2, that's what I named my folder when dumping off all the previous years, all the previous papers and whatnot that I had to write for my sophomore year. And again, this is all completely visible. I can see my last access date, last modified, when I created it, all from these shell bags. And the thing is, these shell bags don't get deleted. Unless you manually delete them, they persist, which is great from a forensic standpoint. But now let's go here to computers and devices. So not only do we have removable media, but we have network media. So I mentioned that when I was doing sysadmin 1, files.istlabs.rit.edu. What's the shell type? Network location. And from here, we can read, when did I last interact with it? 6/24/2020. So again, all right here to be understood. And to give one more recent example with more recent timestamps, if I go my computer to see users, myself, documents, third year. So then let's go to my economics. Yep. So then, target timestamp, last accessed, just last month. Most recent. What else do I have? 202. So all the labs that I was working on. So again, shellbags provide just value forensically from just looking at when a file was accessed, when a user accessed a network share. And other than that, that's shellbags in a nutshell.
Are you done with that?
Yeah, I'm done. I'm open for questions now. So,
Sorry, you said it persisted. If you deleted your new folder, it'll still be in. Can you demo that?
yeah, I'll actually demo that real quick. My apologies.
I just want to say, that's like a live persistent demo right there.
Okay, so if I just because what's happening with Shellbags Explorer is I just gotta exit it for a minute because it's reading the file, but it doesn't update live. So just for the sake of the demo, I'm going to delete test 2 and RITSEC demo. So gone.
Hey, it's this homework folder, all right? Don't ask.
No. 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 So again, Zoom being Zoom, I'm just going to.
You're good, dude. Don't worry about the Zoom.
Okay, back to opening it back up. So now, once again, we're gonna read from the Active Registry.
Emmanuel, watch how quick this is.
Done.
Real quick.
Active Registry
Oh,
loaded up.
Look at that.
Wow.
5 seconds.
10 seconds. Good time. Good load time,
It
guys.
wasn't 10 seconds, it was 3.5 seconds.
Did you time it?
Yeah.
But once again,
Okay.
It was right up there, it said 3.5 seconds.
yeah. But once again, here it is, test 2. The records still exist. Just because you have the file deleted or the file's been moved, those records still exist. It doesn't go away. And the nice thing is, when I mentioned that there are the 2 important .dat files, those exist for every user. Every user you have on a system, as long as they've logged in and started interacting with the system, you can go to those files, you can take those and load those as the Hive. So, for example, if I was to load offline Hive, and then we just go to see users, myself, and then here's NT-user.dat. That's got not as much from my research as the next directory, which is under AppData local Microsoft, Windows, and then user class. User class is mainly the one you want to be looking at because, and used by another program because I'm actively using it now. So user class is the main one that you're going to want to be looking at whenever you're doing shellbag exploration. But NT-user does have some information, just not as much as user class. But other than that, that's shellbags. A quick introduction. Does anyone on stream or here in the club room have any questions?
It's fine. It doesn't matter.
Okay, so
Join the Zoom link.
the amount of time
Enzo, is there anyone on stream who has a question?
anyone has done anything.
Okay,
Thank you, Evan.
cool.
I pledge allegiance to the